Welcome back to your bestie in freight. Today's episode is going to be really interesting because we are talking about something that impacts almost every part of logistics right now: warehousing, growth, supply chain operation, and what companies actually need behind the scene to scale. And today my bestie is Phil Schmidbauer, a supply chain leader with deep experience in operation management, carrier management, logistics, design, lean supply chain systems, and process improvements. Thank you so much, Phil, for joining me today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yes, and even though I practice your last name, I think I didn't say it correctly, so forgive me.
It's okay. I've been called worse.
Yes, okay. So, Phil, you have spent years helping teams identify problems, remove waste, right, improve processes, and create real operation value, which honestly is what separates good logistics companies from great ones. And now you are expanding even bigger with a brand new 850,000 square feet facility in Columbus, Ohio, which says
Yes.
a lot about where the market is heading and why Columbus continues to grow as a major logistics hub in the USA. So we're gonna talk a lot about it, but let's start from the beginning. How did you first get into supply chain and logistics?
It's actually funny. When I was in college at Central Michigan University, as a freshman, I had a marketing professor that came to me in one of my sessions and said, "Look, you can get a double major in marketing and logistics for no extra credits. We have classes that double count." And that sounded great to me. I was paying for my own school. I didn't even know what logistics was. And he says, "Don't worry, you'll get into class and figure it out." So I started taking logistics management courses, and it's one of the few schools that really focused in at the time on logistics management. And one of the professors, Dr. Cook, who's since passed, rest his soul, but he actually used our class. It was almost like a consulting project. All of our class was looking at logistics problems, and it was extremely interesting to me. So I got into it in college, and I'm one of the folks that kind of took that degree and ran off into logistics. I had another professor in 2002, before we graduated. He had actually been in charge of the logistics for the American Red Cross for 9/11. And so he did a presentation that I think was scheduled for 2 hours. He talked for about an hour and a half, and then we sat there for another hour and a half peppering him with questions. And I realized at that point that logistics is always going to be a need. Um, and there's always going to be a job in that marketplace, right? And so I got into a logistics job out of college, and I've been doing it ever since, and I love it.
Wow, that's so interesting. To be quite honest with you, you are the first person that has a logistics degree because all people come from different backgrounds. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
Do you think that logistics degree helping you or?
Yeah, I mean, when I was in college, we didn't have some of the tools we have today. So we were doing routing design. We had to go on, mapping software and stuff, and build routes and design routes. So we were doing projects that Dr. Cook had taken from the industry. He worked in the industry. He had a really funny story on how he got into the industry, which we won't go into today, but got out of the industry and started teaching. He's like, I think the way he put it to us in class was, in the real world, there's too many idiots. I got to get into college and start to educate these people on how logistics works and what happens in the real world. And so our projects in class, they were all team projects, and they were all consulting projects that he had done that we worked on. And the goal of each project was for the teams to compete against each other and design the most efficient solution. And so I actually did in college work the stuff that I do today, and I have much better technology today to do it. But that's what we did manually: pencil and paper, Excel spreadsheets, designing routes, designing networks for people in those classes. And so it was helpful. It's great to kind of look back at what we did back then and just see how relevant it still is today.
Yes, I love it. You describe yourself as someone who loves solving problems and eliminating waste. Where did that mindset came from?
So my first job out of school was for a company called Transfreight, which is got bought by Penske a number of years ago, and I worked for Transfreight at the Toyota plant in Princeton, Indiana. And so I really learned early in my career about the philosophy of Toyota identifying and eliminating waste. And I've really had a lean background ever since then, working for multiple different companies along the way that implemented those practices. And so I love the idea and the thought of looking at a value stream and looking at a value stream map of what of the process you're doing. And if you really think about value at the end consumer level, so what I value when I go buy a car, or when I go to the grocery store, whatever it is, I see different value in different things. Some people want to spend a lot of money on cars. Some people want to spend a lot of money on maybe a guitar or some other item, or maybe it's just a service or an experience, right? And so it's really in our world of logistics, identifying where there's wasteful things in that value stream that don't make any sense, and the more of that you can get rid of, the better quality, lower costs, and the better value you can drive for the end customer. And so, ever since learning how to do that, and actually instead of talking about it in a class, applying it to real world business, it's just been really fun for me. And sometimes there are big challenges that you got to get through that are very difficult, but when you're done, it's rewarding. So it's just something I've kind of learned from the beginning of my career, and I've picked up little pieces along the way, and I just think it's so intuitive to drive value for customers, and it's just what we do.
Yeah, that's amazing that you mentioned Toyota. Maybe that's why they are one of the most reliable cars out there, right?
Yeah, when you see the way that they problem solve down to the assembly line, and it was really intriguing. You can walk along their assembly line and find a document where they've actually been problem solving at the assembly line a part that somebody was complaining about online, and so they take it right back to where the cars are built, the way everything's manufactured, and it's just about getting, to the point of where the work's being done, and what they call going to the Gemba. So I think it was really interesting. I learned so much early in my career. It was absolutely, and Dr. Cook recommended, he's like, go take that job because you're going to work at a Toyota plant and you're going to learn things you never knew existed. And he was right.
Wow, that's so amazing. Other than that, what were some early lessons in your career that shaped how you lead today?
Um, I think the first one is being curious. There were a lot of times, Toyota is a very driven organization. I worked for a very driven organization as well. And I think the number one thing I had to learn is to be curious, and what you think you know may not necessarily be what you know. Like, how do you learn? And people asking difficult questions. Like, you might be good at what you're doing. You might think, oh, okay, we're hitting our KPI. Well, how do you get better than that? How do you improve even further? How do you ratchet up and get even better than what you were? And so the idea of continuous improvement is a very difficult concept because you're never done, right? And so it can be exhausting, and you never really celebrate that, oh, look, we just achieved this milestone. And then all of a sudden somebody comes in and says, okay, you got to 96% on time. How do you get to 97? It's like, oh, can we just stop and celebrate? So to me, it's exhausting at times, and it can be exhausting, but it really highlighted to me that I think you need to take time to celebrate those things and those achievements. And it's really like, my nephew is in the workforce and is moving to a different job right now. And I told him, I said, Nick, just be curious. Stop. Don't ever think you know everything. Always be curious and continue to learn, and continue to develop yourself. So I think those are some of the things that I've learned early on that are really helpful in my career going forward.
Yes, I love that. No one ever said that, to be curious. That's amazing. And was there a moment when you realized you were really good at operation and process improvement? Would you say that it is because of Toyota or there was different stages?
I think there's a lot of things that influenced me throughout my career. I don't know that there's one moment. I think when I was early on in my career in my initial job, I think I realized that I connect well with people. Like, I'm a people person. I'm outgoing. I can talk to anyone. I kind of get that from my father. He never met a stranger. He would talk to anyone. And it used to be embarrassing as a little kid, but now I realize, like, I'm turning into that man, which isn't a bad thing. So, when I realized I was good at my job, I guess the fact that I've had a job since I was 10 years old, and I've never looked for a job in my life, for the most part. So, like, it's always kind of found me. People have found me. People goes, hey, we'd like to talk to you about coming to work for us or whatever. And so to me, I think it's like, I don't know if it's that I'm as much about my job or just the type of person that I am, and being willing to help, lend a hand to people, and just try to use my talents for the betterment of the company, the people I work for, and my customers. So I don't know if there's really a point, or just throughout my career I've kind of realized, like, maybe I do know what I'm talking about, and I work hard, and I think that's really ingrained in me. Like I said, I had a paper route when I was 10 years old. I delivered my paper route every day, 7 days a week. And I've just had that work ethic from when I was a little kid built into me for life.
Wow. So what you were doing 7 years old on the paper?
Yeah, yeah, I was 10 and I just delivered papers every morning. Well, every morning or night when I got home from school, I would deliver newspapers to people's homes.
Papers.
New
Oh, okay.
papers, yeah. So
Yes.
I had to deliver newspapers and then I had to go collect the money to pay my bills. So I ran my own small business at the age of 10 years old and until I was 15. So
That's amazing. Phil, now let's talk about Columbus, right?
yeah.
Why do you think Columbus has become such a major logistics hub? I think we underestimate Columbus.
Well, I think Columbus is strategically located. I mean, Columbus is where it is, but I think if you think about how much you can get to, how far, if I'm driving from Columbus, I can get to Chicago in a day, I can get to New York in a day. Like Columbus is centrally located within a very large, I think 40% of the US population within a day, right? And then you get out to Eastern Pennsylvania. So Columbus has really been a big hub, whether you're going east and west or even coming north and south, coming out of Cleveland, going south from that standpoint. So it's strategically located within a large population. So when I look at if I do a network analysis for somebody or a center of gravity, and we're trying to look at distribution hubs, Columbus fits very well. And we also are in Redlands, California, or Southern California. So Southern California and Redland and Columbus are a very good dual node to where you can get to a large population within a 1 day point. And so really the geographic location of Columbus fits really well with the United States population. And so that's what drives a lot of the hub. And then it's just a lot of the industry that's in Columbus. And I think that just that combination, the workforce and the size of Columbus and the surrounding area really supports a good logistics hub for us.
That's nice. So you guys just had the 850,000 square feet facility, right? You lately
Yeah.
opened it. What does that expansion really mean operationally?
It means a lot of work. So it's currently opening and starting to fill up the facility as we speak. And then as we're on calls with our sales team and we're like, guys, this might be full already. We've got commitments for that space. Like, what do we like? How long does it take us to get another one set up, right? So really, what it is operationally standing it up, getting people trained, hiring a workforce to open up that facility. There's a lot of details that go into opening up a facility like that. It's easy to go assign space and put a layout together and stuff, but then you have customers that also want to grow. So, we have a large footprint and a lot of facilities in Columbus, and you might have a customer that says, "Hey, I'm running out of space. I need another 30,000 square feet." And they might be in a building where we can or can't accommodate that. So we have to look at other buildings and moving customers from one location to the next or having customers in multiple facilities. So the level of details and work that goes on behind the scenes to opening up a new facility is a lot. And so it's just a lot of work and coordination by the team members that are doing it, and then making sure we have enough staff and equipment and all of that to get all the work done.
Yes. So where do companies waste the most money in supply chain without realizing it?
Oh, wow. Where do they waste the most? So, um, recently we've worked with a couple customers. I've seen people that have multiple nodes of distribution when they may not need to have it. And the waste that I see that is the worst comes from one example is a customer has 5 different nodes of distribution, and they have these products that are distributing out to the customers. The problem with having 5 nodes is the complexity of managing inventory at 5 locations. So A, they have more inventory than they probably need. And then B, making sure it's full. So if you're distributing out of Southern California to your customers in California, but you don't have the right product, and the product you do have is in Columbus, guess what? Now you're paying that much more to strip it all the way from Columbus to your California facility, double handling it, and then redistributing it out to your customers. Or shipping it directly to your customers from Ohio on smaller shipment sizes, which is also inefficient. So of the 7 wastes that we identify in the lean world, the worst of them is overproduction. And the reason is if you make more than the customer wants, you create all the other wastes along the way. So in doing that, what I would suggest is that people that have too complex of a network and don't manage it efficiently cause a whole lot of extra waste and extra transfers, extra handling. all of those things are really probably the biggest and most difficult thing that people have had to deal with. And a lot of times they're stuck in the day-to-day grind of, okay, we got to get inventory balance and do this and do that. And the first thing that everybody does is says, well, we're going to take our inventory levels up. Costs money. Like inventory is expensive. And so when they do that, you have to store that inventory, you have to manage that inventory. So I would say that's one of the biggest ones I've seen from a broader supply chain scale.
Yes, I haven't heard this before, so it might be true.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what operational trends are you watching closely right now?
Well, right now, a lot of it is on the truckload market. There have been a lot of things with, I've heard along the way that, well, demand's not up, and but this is a supply side, a supply side market impact right now on the truckload rates and what's happening in the marketplace. The Montgomery Supreme Court case is definitely something to keep an eye on. We went into this past week with truckload rates being teetering on the highest they've ever been. And when you look at a couple different indexes, you look at Sonar's index, their daily index, it's higher than it was during 2022 and COVID. And so the question is where is that going to settle as we get through month end? We're now getting into the second quarter. Where are those truckload rates going to settle? What's capacity going to look like? Nobody has a clear answer on what is a safe carrier versus an unsafe carrier. So we've kind of felt like we've held pretty high standards as an organization always going through this. So the real question is going to be where do those truckload rates settle? That's the big question in the industry right now.
Yes. So there is a lot of talks, when the market shifts, some companies come and talk about relationship and then they try to downgrade people who are, working out of load board and stuff, not mentioning that relationship cannot save if the rates from $2 per mile jump to $5 per mile. What is your opinion about it? Do you agree with the people who always just talk about relationship, relationship, relationship? Because I have a feeling that if you can sustain these relationships, it means you were charging them way more than the market rate, that you can sustain it without asking the customer to pay for more. What is your opinion?
Yeah, there's a delicate balance here. Like we're all in business to make money. Nobody's in business as a 501(c)(3) to operate someone else's network. And so I think relationships are critically important. And what that means to me is we want to work with our customers and say, look, here's what's happening in the market. We educate our customers, but you and I can have a great relationship, but I can't pay you double the market to operate a network for me. Now there are things like, hey, maybe I pay you a little bit more because I know you. I know you're going to take care of the freight. There are certain things. Relationships are only going to last so long, and as long as one party's not taking advantage of the other party, I think relationships are critically important. But you've like, I'm not going to pay my younger brother to move freight for me at 10 times the market, or at a 40% increase over what the market is. So but I think also what people forget about is the unseen costs in transportation. We've had a customer in the past that wanted the lowest rate, lowest rate, lowest rate. And it's like you're chasing a spot market and then you've got theft out there, which is another big concern. And so when you're looking for the lowest rate, you're not necessarily looking at the best quality carriers. You might be subject to theft and some other things. So relationships are always going to be important in any industry we're in, especially in our industry. But we have to be careful that you're not chasing a price and losing something else, be it service, be it risk. There's other things that are at play there that I think people need to be really cognizant of. And again, the importance of relationships to me is talking to your customers about, hey, I know I've got a rate that's $500 cheaper than what you're giving me. Say, look, I can't touch it. If you want to go take it, go for it. But here are the risks you're taking on if you go chase certain rates in the market today.
Yes, I love it. The balance, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Phil. So let's go back about the times where you were also again in university. What skills do younger professionals nowadays you think need if they want to succeed in supply chain today versus before?
Um, so I don't know if I would suggest the skills need to change. I think people in general, sure, they're teaching things in universities today that we weren't taught. There's technology advancements, there's things that students are learning about technology. When I was in college, we didn't do as much Excel. Believe it or not, I mean, we used it, but I didn't take any classes on it. I remember telling in an interview, I remember telling one person that I thought I was a 7 out of 10 in Excel, and and then I'm like, I got out of college, I'm like, holy cow, there's so much I don't know about Excel. It's not even funny. I was probably a 1 out of 10 in Excel when I got out of college. Luckily, I didn't take that job and prove myself wrong, but um, I think that, some universities and colleges are teaching some of those things, but to me, the skills that are most important is the willingness to learn. Like colleges and universities don't always prepare you and teach you things that you're going to learn in the real world. I remember a lot of classes that were useful, and I remember some classes. I took a business math class. It was BLR 216. I'll never forget it. I don't think I remember anything from that class. But I went in, I spoke to the professor, and she was really nice and like tried to help me out. There were more letters in that math than I knew about. I don't know if I've ever used any of that math since then, but I can tell you that like you're going to learn more. I learned more from sitting in a cab with a truck driver after I got out of college about transportation than I ever learned in some of those classes. Now, my logistics management classes were really good and relevant to my experience, but my music theory class that I took wasn't something that I needed, right? So I
Yes.
think to me, learning is the most important thing that people can have as a skill is continue to learn. I'm not a big reader. I don't like to read a lot, but I love to listen to podcasts. I love to talk to people. I love to learn still. And I think to me, it's less about a skill and more about being going back to being curious. Be curious and learn. And if you're willing to learn and curious, find what you love to do and go chase it.
Yes, I love it. Phil, I want to quickly shout out my today's sponsor, Digital Permit Book. They are helping tracking companies keep their permits, compliance documents, and important paperwork organized digitally instead of dealing with stacks of papers in the track. So definitely a smart solution for tracking companies, owner operators, and truck drivers. So please, everyone, go check them out. And do you want to add something for our audience? What would you love to share about the company that you are working for and the service you are providing?
Sure. Yeah. I'm at ODW Logistics. We're a full service supply chain 3PL. We do warehousing and transportation, and I say that our happiest customers are the ones that we're doing warehousing and transportation for. And the reason is because we operate a supply chain and look at the entire value stream. So when we're managing transportation, we're trying to also level load the warehouse and worry about their labor efficiencies. And so as an organization, we really strive to help our customers deliver a very fluid and efficient supply chain across the supply chain. We're not just worried about lowest total transportation costs, not just worried about efficiency at the warehouse. We are worried about the entire supply chain. And so that's kind of what we focus on with our customers is how do we help build a fluid supply chain that helps meet their goals? Some might be high cost, or sorry, low cost, some might be high service. And how do we find that delicate balance for each customer and really deliver what they're looking for? And so that's really what we strive to do. And we're not going to fit everybody. We are not going to be able to drive everyone's supply chain. But if you're a good fit and our companies align on those goals, then I love what we do. And as an organization, it's really fun to continue growing even in a tough market.
Yes, I love it. Phil, so are you ready for our rapid fire question?
Let's do it.
So, favorite truck stop snacks?
Favorite truck stop snacks? Beef jerky.
Okay. One logistics term you never want to hear again.
Mm. I don't think I can get away from a specific logistics term.
Track got cancelled, maybe?
What's that?
Track got cancelled?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough one. I'll have to think about that.
Okay. Morning person or night owl?
Both.
Hardest part about leadership?
Hardest part about leadership, um, I think it's striking a balance. Striking the balance, with your employees and your people. But I love it. I love working with people. So for me, I don't find it overly difficult. I think it's, coaching is what I do. So I love doing it, whether it's be with little kids or with my baseball team or the people I work with. I love it.
One thing people think is easy in logistics, but absolutely is not.
Growing hair.
That was a really good one. Not for women, for women.
Well, for me anyway.
I have seen these jokes, about logistics people, men mostly, that they are mostly not having hair. I'm not sure because of logistics, but we will figure it out. So, if you were not in supply chain, what would you be doing?
Probably lawn care or landscaping. I love working outside in the yard and or construction. I love doing remodeling stuff in the house. Something with my hands.
That's amazing. Coffee or energy drinks?
Coffee for sure.
What's more stressful, transportation or warehousing?
You didn't say raising teenagers. Um,
I don't have teenagers.
yeah, probably warehousing. Warehousing is difficult because of all the labor. Transportation, we're just coordinating with people, but warehousing because of all the hiring and labor and turnover you have to deal with from an HR perspective.
Yes, I love it, Phil. This was such an amazing conversation. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your experience and giving us different perspective, especially on operation and mindset and growth and where the supply chain industry is heading. And of course, I wish you good luck with your new 850,000 square feet expansion. And I will see you on the next one. And everyone who was listening, I was your host, Lida. And please subscribe, follow me, and I will see you on the next one. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
We did it, Phil.